All right, so from last class, we had our data for our sample size of 30. We had data for our sample size of 5 and 10%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Google Sheets that we made last class, and we're going to record our data into that section. Okay, so our sample size of 30 here is this set of data here on my right. So I'm going to input this data, the 0, the 1.25, the 3.5, the 5.75, and the 17. I'll put those items here. Okay, so 0, 1.25, 3.5, and 5.75, and lastly 17. I'll scroll down, or for you guys, turn to page 42, and I'll do the same thing with this set of data over here, sample size of 5 and sample size of 10, and I actually have those listed backwards. So this one is actually the sample size of 5, and this one is actually the sample size of 10. I just have them labeled incorrectly. So let's start off with my sample size of 5, which is actually this group here. It's just incorrectly labeled. And I'll do that sample size of 5. I'll do that in green, and we'll put 1, 2, 5, 7, and 15. And my sample size of 10, again, incorrectly labeled. I'll do it in a different color, red. 0, 1.25, 3, 5.5, and 17. Okay, so that's our data, and with that data, I'm going to place all of that data, these 3 sections, the 10% sample size, my 5% sample size, and my 30% sample size. I'm going to put them all on this one number line down here. Okay, so I'm going to number this number line because it goes all the way to 17. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Good? Alright, so sample size is 30. 0, 1.25, 3.5, 5.75, and 17. I'll do that here. 0, 1.25, 3.5, 5.75, and 17. And I'll make my box and whisker plot there, and my box there. That is my sample of 30. Good. I'll do the same thing with my sample size of 10. I don't know what color I did sample size of 10. 10 was in green, so I'll do the same thing. Sample size of 10, which was 1, sorry, I got that backwards. Oh man, I have my data backwards. This one is my 5, and this one is my 10. Got it backwards, sorry. Let's see. Okay, so 0, 1.25, 3, 0, 1.25, 3, 5.5, and 17. 5.5 and 17, and I just noticed now that I did this in the color. So I'm going to change this all to red in just a second. Okay, and sorry, wrong color. Let's change the color. That should be red. This is sample of 10. And lastly, in green, my sample size of 5, 1, 2, 5, 7, 15. 1, 2, 5, 7, and 7 and 15. Yes.
On the other side, it says not all use the boxes in column 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the other line plot.
On the other line plot, not this one?
Yeah.
Over here? That's okay. We'll just put them all in here. Okay, this is my sample of 5. Good. All right, now which of the groups look the same? Or the most the same? Okay, so the sample size of 10 and the sample size of 30 are the same. Okay, so these two are very, very similar to each other. So we now know that a sample size of 10 will yield similar results to a sample size of 30. Okay. Okay, so sample size of 10 will yield similar results to a random sample of 30. Okay, so our goal was to pick the right size, and 10% was enough. Okay, because they're pretty similar. 30 and 10, they're pretty good. I can't tell too much of a difference. This number is a little bit off or a little bit different, and that's about it. All the other ones kind of matched fairly well. Okay, so you can get very similar results with a sample of 10. Okay, and I think we wrote this down already on the next page, or sorry, not on the next page, on page 42, 43. Sample size of 5 is too small to get a representative sample of the population. 10% or more is good enough to get that representative sample. So 10% is what we're looking for. Yeah.
So for like the little line plot, for the sample size of 5 or 10, 5
Yeah.
or 10, I think I got for the median I got 4, and then for the upper quartile and the maximum I also got 4. So
For your sample size of 5 or your sample size of 10?
5.
Okay. So if they're all the same, then that one line exists in 3 places. So your line, if you're saying your median, your upper quartile, and your maximum were all 4, it would look like this. It would just be here, and then it'd be a box, and then a whisker. It just looked like that. Yeah. No one there. And that was it? Okay. Sorry. You can hang out, read a book, watch a movie. All right. So before I forget, your homework goes here. So here, your homework today is 0502 for 3.1 and 3.2. So we're doing these 2 sections today. Okay, and down here for your homework, just a reminder, you do have a unit quiz on Monday, and today, 0502, you have your study guide. And that's page 78 to 80, do 0506. There you go. All right, so yes, the quiz. Your quiz will be 20 points, is what I have down right now. So instead of it being a unit test, which is 50, your quiz is 20, and your project will be 30. So together, those two make a regular test. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go to page 44, I believe, and we are working with comparing samples using box plots. So the story goes for this section on page 44. You are an archaeologist and you discover a new site. Okay, but the unfortunate thing about discovering this new site is you don't have a lot of information to go off of. Okay, so you discover on this new site that there are arrowheads, and from those arrowheads you start measuring them, and you're able to compare that data to other known sites. Okay, so there are two sites that are new or unknown. These two unknown sites are going to be Site 1 and Site 2. We don't have a ton of information about them, but luckily for us, they already did all the hard work in calculating that data for us. Okay, so I need to figure out what time frame these two sites probably existed, because I'm an archaeologist, that's what I do, right? So using some data that they already have, there is a site at Buffalo Creek, and there's a site at Dead Indian Creek or Laddie Creek, and there is a site at Big Goose Creek and Wortham Shelter. Okay, and they already have the data from those other sites, and they're going to use the new data and compare it to some of the known data to make some inferences, I guess you can say, about when these two sites were settled. So they already have our Q1, our Q2, Q0. So here's Q0, there's Q1, this one is Q2, there's Q3, and this one is Q4. And we're going to make box plots for all 6 of these sites. And from these 6 box plots, we should make a comparison between the unknowns and the knowns. Okay, so Buffalo Creek goes in the red section. Okay, Laddie Creek or Dead Indian Creek goes in my orange section, and Site 1 will go in the green section, so it matches the colors I have there. You don't have to have all these colors on here. It just helps visualize things for your notes as you guys are writing them down. Okay, and then I've got purple down here, and lastly, my last section is gray. Okay, I'm gonna do the first 2 with you. I'll do the orange and the red with you guys, and I'll let you guys do the last 4. Okay, so the first 2, here's my 25, 38, and 45. I'm going to start making a box plot for that data. 25, what is it? 25, 38, 45. So 25 goes here. 25, what was it? I forgot the rest of it. 38, 45. 38 and 45. And then I have 52 and 78. 52 and 78. And this is my box and whisker plot. There we go. Looks like that. Okay. And with my orange group, or Dead Indian Creek or Laddie Creek, I will do the same thing. 25, 29, 33 and a half. 25, 29, 33 and a half, 40, and then 52. So here's my whiskers, and there's my box. There you go. Okay. You're going to take about 4, maybe 5 minutes to plot the next 4 box and whisker plots. Make lines at each of those values, Q0 through Q4, and connect them to make your boxes and whiskers. And then we'll make some discoveries about these places. Good? All right, go ahead. Start plotting your box and whisker plots, and we'll compare them together. graph, this should look something like this. Yes? Okay. Now what you notice is site 1 and site 2, are they similar to any of the other sites? Site 2 is similar to which one? Wortham Creek. Okay. So this blue one seems to be similar to the bottom two. Okay. So blue is similar to purple and gray or tan, whatever this color is. This is supposed to be gray and black. Okay. So this one is similar to the last two, and this green one is similar, not super similar, but kind of similar to the ones above it. Okay. So we can say, or we can make the educational guess or the assumption that site 1 is probably settled around this time frame, and site 2 is probably settled close to or around this time frame. These are very, very large time frames. They go from 4,000 to 500. That's like 4,500 years. And this one down here is almost, it's more than 1,000 years. So those are a big group of time frames. So the likelihood that site 2 was settled in that later group and site 1 is settled in that first group is a strong likelihood. Okay, so we can make some academic responses to these questions based on our graphs. Okay, so on page 45, it asks, during which time period do you think site 1 was settled? So site 1, we're on page 45. It's just the next page, was likely settled during 4,000 BC to 500 AD because of the similarities in arrowhead lengths with other settlements during the same time frame. Good. So site 1 likely settled during that 4,000 to 500 because other sites with the same or similar data ended up in that same time frame. Okay. Now, are these arrowheads bigger or smaller than the other group? For example, if you look here at the first 3, are those arrowheads bigger or smaller than the last 3? Adrian?
They're bigger.
They're a bit bigger. Okay, you can tell because the numbers are larger and these are lengths, so they're a little bit longer. Okay, they might be a little bit wider, but we're not really, they didn't measure that on this table. Okay, so we can say that probably an older technology in that first 4,000 to 500 AD, that their technology wasn't very good or not as good as it was later, so then their arrowheads are bigger, right? So as technology improves, things usually get a little bit smaller, right? A computer used to take up an entire room. Now I could fit it in the palm of your hand, right? Things get smaller as technology increases, right? Good. All right, and we can make a similar, if not almost identical statement for site 2. Site 2 is likely settled in the second time frame. So site 2 was likely settled during 500 AD to 1600 AD because of its similarities to other sites and their arrowhead lengths. So site 2, that second group, and we'll take a break.